That is in part because I am in school. And so this is a tool that I use for my classwork and for my paper writing. So if I come across as ridiculously overly enthusiastic about a citation tool, it's because I actually know how great this thing is. So let's go ahead and begin at the beginning. Do any of you guys have a RefWorks account yet?
I do, yeah.
Okay, so you have a RefWorks account, you do you? Okay, well, awesome. We can skip over that. Have y'all been RefWorks users for a long time, or is this fairly recent?
I only used it once. We had a file event project for DCMD once.
Okay. Did any of you use the old RefWorks, or what we call legacy RefWorks?
We used it.
Okay.
I used the old one.
You use the old one. Have you migrated to the new one, or have you moved your references, or do you care about being able to move your references? Okay, well that makes things really easy because we will be dealing exclusively with the new RefWorks, and indeed legacy RefWorks has been removed from our website, from our documentation. I think there's only one place on the site right now where you can find it. So I try not to mention it unless it's in the context of, well, you really need to be migrating because we're not going to provide support for this anymore. So this is the new RefWorks. I have it set to automatically log in. Obviously, you'll start from the library homepage for any of our resources that you're dealing with. Always start from the library homepage at library.pcom.edu. If you're already logged into RefWorks, you're going to be taken to this main screen. This is what you're going to see every single time, is a list of all of the references that you've imported or otherwise put into RefWorks. I'm just going to take you on a little tour of the layout so that you can get comfortable with where everything is, and that way you're not fishing around for how to do stuff or where to do stuff. So like I said, all documents will take you to everything that you have in RefWorks, completely unorganized. I think you can sort it by date, you can sort by title, but it just throws everything up there at you. This next link under that is search databases, and I'm going to go into that a little bit more when we're talking about how you get your research from whatever database you're looking at into RefWorks. But suffice to say that you can search the library's catalog. You can also search PubMed or the Library of Congress. In my case, I use Georgia State University because that's where I'm currently a student. So I can use RefWorks to quickly search databases that are available to me, and from there I can pull in my citations and my references. Last imported is pretty self-explanatory. If you've been working in RefWorks and you've got a few citations in, where did I put these? Where are they showing up? I can't find them. If you know you've been working with stuff, you can go to last imported, and then you can see all of the stuff that you've pulled in categorized by how long ago you brought it in. You can see I was doing a little bit of work this morning to show you guys later. Sharing just briefly, if you wanted to see somebody else's research or research list, citation list, or you wanted to share your citation list with somebody else, this is one of the ways you would do it. That plus sign there will allow you to share any of the folders that you have in My Folders. Also, if anybody has shared folders with the greater college community, or with you particularly, you'll be able to find them in that list. You can see down here that I created a reading list for our last library event that is available to anybody who can just join, and then later that is going to show up here, and then you can see all of the stuff that I put in that folder and all of the different subjects that I was researching. And if I had included documents, you'd be able to read those too. So that is sharing. My Folders is great because that's where your organization happens. If you're working on a few different papers, or you're working on maybe your thesis and you have different headings, My folders is great because you can have your main heading, which in this case for the paper that I wrote is Galactagogues. If you click on that little triangle, you get all of your subheadings. So I have subfolders for each of the herbs that I was researching. So that helps me keep my stuff straight. I know where I'm looking for my different articles and my different citations. And then later when I'm going to cite in different sections, I can use that to easily pull my citations into the paper. Tags are tags. I still have not figured out a good usage for tags. You can use them to organize your stuff. They don't really do anything for me because there's so many different ways of tagging things and there's so many different words that you can use. I mean, just look for any given article that I've pulled in. It's had a tag with it and it's just kind of useless. So love tags, hate tags. I don't use tags, so I kind of just ignore them. Deleted, again, self-explanatory. Any citation that you've deleted but not deleted permanently is going to show up there. And it's from that point that you can just remove it from RefWorks altogether, or you can retrieve it and move it back into a folder. So those are the navigational features on the left side of the screen. The stuff that you find on top, that's where the money is going to be as far as adding citations and manipulating citations. So let's just go ahead and go into, now that you know how to use RefWorks, how do you get your stuff from whatever database you're using into RefWorks? The answer to that is going to depend chiefly on what database you're using. So I will show you PubMed. I will show you OneSearch Plus, but again, it's going to be dependent on where in the internet you find yourself that is going to determine how you get these references in. Since search databases is there, and I just talked about it, we'll go ahead and cover that first. So I mentioned that RefWorks has the capability to pull citation information from the library's catalog. So if you wanted to search for a textbook that you wanted to cite in something that you were writing, you can just use the search bar. Put in your search terms. You can select just one of those. If you click in the checkbox, that will just select the checkbox. Clicking on the reference itself will open up the information on the right side of the screen, and then you'll be able to look at, what you're about to import. After you've checked everything and make sure it's good, you just click import, and just like that, it's in RefWorks. So now if we go to the last imported folder, you'll see that I imported a citation for Robbins & Cochran Atlas of Pathology. I can now cite that in my paper if I so choose. Go ahead and go back to search databases. Like I mentioned, you can search PubMed. It's only basic searching functionality, so you can search by keyword, author, title. Not much more than that. You don't get the power of using your mesh headings or anything like that. You're just searching for words at this point. So the search takes a minute, but when it finally goes through, you have just a load of references which you can then go through, evaluate. Mostly basic information. You might get an abstract. I noticed with a few of these that I ran earlier, I didn't get an abstract. So the information that's going to be found excuse me, from this search, it's going to be hit or miss as far as how much it's getting for you. But it does offer you a point from which to start if you're just in RefWorks looking for something, that's one way that you can get those citations in. Anybody have any questions so far? Going too fast, too slow, pacing good? Okay. All right, so that is search databases. Basic functionality, it allows you to do what you need to do, but that's not really the preferred way to get stuff into RefWorks. If you click on Tools, which by the way you can also find along with Settings and the link to your RefWorks library in the drop-downs heading under your name, if you click on Tools, you'll see that you are offered to install Save to RefWorks, and that's what's called a bookmarklet. You click on that, and then you drag that to the Bookmarks toolbar. So now when you're browsing the internet, you come across something that you're like, hey, that is an amazing thing. I want to use it or come back later to it. Let's go to PubMed. That's easy. Disorders and dermatology. All right, so you're kicking around the internet. Maybe you're in Google Scholar or you're on Research Hub or any other place that you might find citations that you want to use. If you click on Save to RefWorks, RefWorks is going to do its best to pull whatever citation information it can find from the page that you're on. Now, this works with varying degrees of success based on where you are on the internet, how much metadata is provided by the website, and, I don't know, the phase of the moon. A bunch of other factors that you really can't control. But if the stars align, you're going to get a citation with very little work on your part. So after you check and make sure that all the information jives and it's what you want to pull in, you click on Save to RefWorks. If everything works right, you're going to end up with one reference saved. And then you can just view it right there in Last Imported. Clean and easy. Again, like I said, doesn't always work. I've noticed that it is really rubbish with like newspaper articles or just general websites that you want to cite, because those sometimes don't contain the metadata that RefWorks can use. But it's a good tool. It's a really, really great tool. So we'll go ahead and go back to the RefWorks main page. So we've covered the bookmarklet. Another thing that RefWorks allows you to do is drag PDFs, Word documents, any document that it can read, you can just drag into RefWorks and it will try to pull the metadata from it and create a citation. So of course I have an example for you guys. I wrote an article 3 years ago about galactagogues, which are herbal lactation aids. So I have the PDF right here, and all you have to do, I'll move this so y'all can see what's going down. Bloop. So RefWorks is going to chew on that. It sees that I have tried to import something, and now it's trying to pull that metadata from the PDF in order to fill out the citation the rest of the way. So lo and behold, it has sussed out that I am the author of the article, and it's also been nice enough to attach the PDF for me. This is amazing when you're doing research because you can keep all your research in one place. You don't have to have it on your Dropbox or OneDrive or whatever cloud service that you use. You don't have to carry around a thumb drive or anything. All you have to do is drag your documents into RefWorks, and there they are. Simple, easy, done. And you get, as long as the document is nice and formatted properly, you get all of that information that you need to have a nice, well-crafted citation. Okay? And again, you can do this with PDF, Word documents. I'm not sure if it works with any other document types. Yes?
Just a question about the save to RefWorks bar.
Yes.
When you do that, does it go to last imported?
Okay. So the Save to RefWorks bar will put everything in last imported. In fact, anything that you put into RefWorks is going to show up in last imported. I don't know how long it shows up in last imported, but I think unless you specifically clear it, like you could keep everything there. But I like to clear out my last imported, obviously, because it gets cluttered after a little while, and then it kind of removes the point of using that particular feature. But yes, anything you bring into RefWorks is going to show up right there in last imported.
Okay, awesome.
All right, so we have seen how to add using search databases. We've seen the Save to RefWorks bookmarklet, and we've seen dragging and uploading docs, which is a particularly great feature, especially if you get your citations from different places. If you're doing ILL, and I happen to send you a really awesome article that you requested that you didn't have before, you can just go ahead and drag that article in, and boom, it's right there. The last way to get stuff into RefWorks is also, I think, probably the most finicky because, again, it depends on where you're getting your citation information from. You can, if you're using a database that supports it, export a list of references and then upload them into RefWorks, and that'll allow you to do batch uploading. So I'll show you what I mean by that. Say we want articles 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6 from this list. In the case of PubMed, you click on Citation Manager, and it's very helpfully tells you exactly what you're about to do, and then you go ahead and create the file. So that downloads somewhere. Go ahead and open that folder. All right, so we have a folder with a file titled citations.nbib. The name of the file itself is irrelevant, but the extension, those 4 letters after the dot there, the nbib, that's actually really important because that's how RefWorks is going to detect where you got the file from, what format it is in, and how it's going to format your citations as a result, how it's going to bring those in. So in order to get that file into RefWorks, we'll go ahead and import references. Now, minorly funny story about this part here. I was working with a second-year biomed who had a list of, I think, 75 references, all of which they wanted to get into RefWorks. So we create this citations.mbib file, and I drag it into RefWorks. 1 citation imported. Drag it again. 1 citation imported. And I can't figure out for the life of me why the 75 citations that I know are in that file are not showing up. It actually ended up being pretty simple. You can't drag that file into RefWorks. You actually have to go to the folder, double-click, and make sure that it detects that you're trying to upload that file. So I would say as a best practice, if you're in a database and you end up downloading one of these files, whether it be in .ris is one you're going to see, .bib is another one you're going to see, .nbib in the case of PubMed, the only way I can guarantee it will work for you is if you do what I just did. You click on the file, upload it, and then it will say what's the format of this file, and in this case it correctly detected that I got my citations from NLM PubMed. So you go ahead and click on import, and we should have, there we go, 5 documents imported. And of course we'll be taken at that point back to the last imported folder, and you can see that all 5 citations show up there nice and pretty. All right, so the last way to get stuff into RefWorks is creating a citation manually. if all else fails, and I mean if Save to RefWorks fails, if dragging and dropping your document fails, if uploading it from a database fails, then you can craft your citation manually, which in some cases you do have to do. But that is a way that you can do that, and that's pretty self-explanatory. You add the information and you save the citation. I'll go ahead and hop back to the library webpage real quick because I want to give a quick shout out to OneSearch Plus, because that's a really nice way to just do a basic search to kick off your research, because it searches pretty much everything that we have in the library's collection. We feed through OneSearch, and that's a good way to get your references as well. All right, so we have a bunch of documents here, citations with their abstracts. If you happen to find yourself in a database like this, really any database, and you're looking for a way to get the information to save it to RefWorks, look for a link that says Cite, or maybe a link that says Export, because those are going to be your clues as to where you can find that file that will pull the information into RefWorks. So in the case of this particular database, this will give you all the different ways of citing a thing. So if you're building your bibliography from scratch, which, you know, you can do it if you want to, it gives you the properly formatted bibliography. It also very helpfully offers you a way to export that particular citation to RefWorks or any other citation management system that you might want to use. But we have the choice here of a bunch of different ones. Most of these I think RefWorks would read, but of course I prefer to just do direct export to RefWorks. So if the database supports it, it will just give you the choice of whether you want to pull it into RefWorks. It mentions Legacy RefWorks because, you know, it's still a product, it still exists. And there you go, just like that, you've got your document in. So like I said, look for Cite, look for Export, and those are going to be your best bets for getting something into RefWorks from any database or maybe journal listing that you're in. Okay, so now we've gone through how you get your stuff into RefWorks, how you find your way around this interface. So now it's time for the money. You're writing your paper, thesis, non-thesis. You've got a list of 100 or so references maybe. How do you get those suckers into your paper without having to type them all out and format them? And then how do you create a proper bibliography or works cited page? Because I don't know about y'all, but I don't know the rules for MLA or APA or Harvard or Chicago off the top of my head. I don't remember that because RefWorks will do it for me. And I'm about to show you how. I love this part. It's so much fun. All right. So I mentioned earlier that I wrote an article a few years ago. So here I have it in its nascent form, and it's got a few citations in there. But I need to add some more. So what you'll use in this case is called RightInsight. Who's heard of RightInsight? Give it a hand. Woo! You can find RightInsight in the Tools menu. It's right underneath. It's right underneath Save to RefWorks. You will need to install it. There are versions available for Mac and PC. And all you have to do is download and install either the 32 or 64-bit version for your Word installation. If you don't use Word, then you also have the option to use it in Google Docs. I have not used Google Docs that much with RightInsight, but I have used it some. It's pretty nice. It's pretty neat, and it works really, really smoothly. So I will show you guys citing with RightInsight, and then I'll show y'all one more way other than RightInsight that you can get your stuff into your paper. So like I said, I've got this paper here with my research, and as it turns out, there's a citation missing right there. In fact, the citation is just completely wrong, so I'm going to go ahead and remove it. So at this point, I am signed into RightInsight. If I wasn't signed in, that logout would instead say log in, and you would just log in with your RefWorks username and password. And you can see that I'm logged in there. If you need to insert a citation, doing so is as easy as inserting a citation. If you hadn't worked with this before, you would choose Insert New. And in this case, I know that my citation resides in the Others folder. No, sorry, it's not in the Others folder. It's in that folder there. So I think the citation I need is this one. And it's going to be properly formatted with whatever citation style I'm using. So you can see up there that I'm using MLA 8th edition. That's something that I can change on the fly. I have options to change my citation in other subtle ways, like I can turn it into a footnote. If I didn't want to cite it in a paper, in the paper specifically, but I did want it to appear in my bibliography as a source, I can do that as well. Or I can suppress or override pages. So if I'm not citing the whole thing, but I'm citing a page of the thing, I could say I maybe want to cite page 20 because it's 1 to 24. And when I click OK, it's going to stick that in wherever. Oh, it stuck it in where my cursor was, which is not where I want my citation to be. Let's do that again. There. So at this point, I have theoretically a properly formatted citation. Now, the way this works, without getting too technical, is it uses Word's field code functionality to be able to dynamically update these citations. And what that means is if you change a citation in RefWorks and then you sync it with RightInsight, that's how you update your citations. So each of these things we're clicking is a field code, like each of these citations. So if I was to say, change my style of citation from MLA to Chicago, it changes the format of the citation, and that way you don't have to do any more thinking about it than choosing your proper citation format. Does that make sense? Cool. So now we have our citations. Theoretically, they're properly formatted. Now you want to create your works cited, or your bibliography. I've got a section down here that I've put aside just for that. And all you have to do is insert bibliography. And that is it. You have a nicely formatted bibliography in the style that you've chosen. Let's see, let's change to... I think there should be, there's APA. And that's an APA formatted citation style. And it will have changed everything up above as well. So I don't know if y'all remember how the citations looked before, but there were page numbers there, and now there's a year there. So you can see that it changed the citation style to match exactly what it's supposed to be. Everybody got that? And of course, there are other there are other options here too. If your output style went a little wonky, you see something didn't update quite right, you would use reapply output style. Same thing for sync my database. If you're noticing that your information didn't come over from RefWorks properly, or maybe there's a citation missing from your list, something that you may have just added to RefWorks, then you can choose sync my database, and that will update it with the newest information that you've put into RefWorks. Finally, remove field codes. Use that sparingly, because once you remove the field codes, RefWorks, the RightInsight functionality of RefWorks, it can no longer update those citations and that bibliography in real time. So once you remove the field codes, that's it, it's done, your paper's closed, you're not using RefWorks to edit it anymore, okay? All right, so popping back to RefWorks real quick for one more way that you can build your citations and put them into your paper. If you're like me, you tend to bounce back and forth between word processors. Sometimes I use Google Docs, sometimes I use Word. A lot of times, since I'm writing my papers on my iPad, I'll use Pages because I really like its cloud functionality. Well, as you saw in the settings or in the tools section, RefWorks doesn't provide a RightInsight for Pages. So how am I going to get my citations into Pages if I want to write my paper there? You can use the quick cite functionality in order to, while you're writing your paper, you can choose your citations, and as it goes, it will build the bibliography for you just like RightInsight would. So we can go ahead and choose that and that. Maybe I want to cite, let's see, say I want to go ahead and cite those two. I'll go ahead and open up my paper again. And this is pretty straightforward and simple. If this worked properly, what'll happen when I paste is that my citations show up right there. Now, even though this is Word, I'm not going to have the functionality of RightInsight with the field codes and the dynamic updating because this came from the clipboard. So it's basically on me to keep the citation up to date. And so, of course, now that I've had that in my paper and I've gone ahead and cited it, if you click on Continue to Bibliography, it'll take those citations that I copied and put into my document. It remembered those, and it's now created my bibliography page with those citations that I put in. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the meat of RefWorks and how you use it. Just a few other things really quick. If you find that you have dupe references, which happens a lot, especially when you're pulling tons of crap out of PubMed indiscriminately. Maybe you found an article in month 1 of your research, and then you find that same article in month 4 of your research. It's like you never saw it before. You can find duplicate references and you can dedupe them using either strict or fuzzy match. It's just how tightly it adheres to the metadata when it's trying to find matches. And you can see that I've got a few there, and that allows me to very quickly just delete them. And now there are no duplicates. But at least one of all of those is still there because I only deleted the stuff that was checked. Make sense? The last tool is Global Edit. Limited functionality, but I'll show it to you guys anyways. If you wanted to edit one piece of data that was unique to a group of articles that you have, like if you wanted to add maybe the database that you pulled them from, for instance, you could add that using any of the criteria that's there. So like if you pulled a bunch of articles from the same journal, or maybe they had the same ISSN, and you're a stickler for data integrity and you want your data to be clean, that's how you would do it. So that is everything. Does anybody have any questions about the awesomeness that is RefWorks? Anything, throw it at me. I can try to answer it, because while I'm not an expert, like I said, I use this tool for when I'm writing my papers. I use it instead of EndNote, which GSU provides. EndNote, I just couldn't get behind because it was actually too complicated. I don't have the time for that. And RefWorks is nice, it's functional, the interface is clean, it's available anywhere if you have a username and password. And you've got at least one RefWorks expert already who can help you with it. So I hope that when you guys are working on your papers, you enjoy using this. And if you have any questions, please come and see me or any of the other awesome library staff, and we're more than happy to help you. Yes?
That's a couple of questions
Sure.
from other non-thesis students that
Yes.
were able to be here. They're wondering if they could just come up to the desk and...
Absolutely, yes. If at any time, and this goes for any of the resources that we have, if y'all have like 10, 15 minutes, just stop by the library. There's usually always a full-time staff person there, and we can sit down with you. We're happy to sit down with you and do an on-the-spot orientation for any of the tools. You know, if you need just enough to get you onboarded so that you can go in depth on your own, or you want it all laid out for you, we'll do whatever you guys feel that you need to meet that need for you, okay? Any more questions? Cool, yes?
Is there like a specific way where you can get it numbered for your references, where it's like 1, 2, 3, and...
You know what? There is. It has to do with the citation style that you use. Now, if the citation style that you use does not already do that, sorry, I probably went a little fast there. You can, if you go to that menu there, choose Citation Style Editor. I have heard in the past of advisors using kind of wonky citation styles, like requesting bananas things that don't actually conform to a citation style, like maybe having numbers and footnotes, or numbers and years, or whatever. You can start with a style, craft it to meet the specifications that either you or your advisor, or maybe the publisher that you're submitting your article to, make it conform to the specifications that they have there, and then you're off to the races. It's pretty much as simple as that. Cool, well, if nobody else has any questions, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate y'all listening to me and my incredibly huge enthusiasm for this resource that we provide to you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is on Integrity, correct?
It will be on Integrity. I'm gonna go ahead and